Today, class, we'll be talking about some modern approaches to counseling and psychotherapy. With the modern approaches, the emphasis is on educating clients about the therapeutic process. Traditional ways of assessing psychological health are challenged. It is assumed that individual change will best occur through social change. Clients are encouraged to take social action. Problems are viewed in a sociopolitical and cultural context. Acknowledging psychological oppression imposed through sociopolitical status of women and minorities. The client knows what is best for his or her life and is expected to be the expert on their lives. What I'd like for you to do at this moment is pause this video and look at the video, the YouTube video, Women's History Month Stereotypes. Feminist therapy or theory. As you reflect upon the YouTube video you just watched about the stereotypes of women, how does it make you feel? Do you agree with the individuals in the video and their testimonial? Or do you disagree? Do you have to be a woman to be a feminist? Do you think that many of the theories that we've talked about prior include women? Did they integrate women into their philosophy or their therapy or their theory that they have included? Some people didn't believe that that was the case. Feminist therapy receives a lot of negative attention for stereotyping and lack of understanding. Feminism aims to promote equality between the sexes and work on the oppression directed at women. Different feminist perspectives. There's the socialist. These are women that believe that women are oppressed as a result of the economic policies that exploit women as cheap labor. Women still earn less than men in 2013 for the same job. And in 2017, many women are still earning less than most men, although there have been political moves to attempt to change that. Then there's the liberal feminist, believes that everyone deserves freedom no matter what. Everyone deserves freedom no matter what, which is pretty much a dichotomous way of thinking. Then there's the cultural feminist. Women are a separate culture based on their reproductive and biological differences from men, and thus share a sisterhood and separate experience from men. Then there's the radical, the most extreme of them all. They believe that men dominate and control the society, and we must work to change their oppressive standpoint. Which are you, if you're one at all? When we're looking at the four approaches to feminist therapy, I have a particular chart here. In this particular chart, the red is social change, blue is political, and green values experiences of women. That's why you see the different colors of the font or the text. In this particular chart, take time to look at the focus and the goals and read them for each one of these individual perspectives of feminism. After you finish reading, then you can continue watching the video. Pause, please, and read. What are the current stereotypes? What are our current social or societal stereotypes of women? Where did they come from? Here we have a YouTube video that I would like for you to watch. Please pause this video and you view the YouTube video in another browser. Now, after watching that, what are the current stereotypes? Where do they come from? My boss. How do we perpetuate them? How do we fight against them? Now, I would like to move on to what feminism isn't. Many people have their own personal beliefs about feminism and that think that feminists are radical and it's all about the empowerment of a woman and the degradation of a male. Feminists are not anti-male. Feminism isn't used to address only lesbian issues, because some people feel that way. Men receive no attention from feminism. Nah, that's not true. Nor is it their voice important. People believe that that's a stereotype that is not true. Men cannot benefit from the feminist movement. That's not true. Women are trying to control men. That's not true. Concepts of the feminist theory. People have inner strength and resiliency of spirit and want equality and freedom is one of the beliefs. From a sociopolitical standpoint, sociopolitical forces create oppression and can work against us achieving freedom and equality. It is one of the concepts of the feminist theory. Males are emphasized to autonomy and independence. Females are emphasized to nurture, empathize, and connect with others. Other concept. People construct their own view of reality based upon internalized narratives from society, which are considered social constructionism. People construct their view of reality based upon an internal narrative that they have inside. And where do you think they get this from? We talked about schema and schemata before in class. Where do you think all these beliefs come from? They're societal constructs that have been put in place, and people view this. Now, what do you think Adler would say about this? Would he be in agreement with feminism? Or would he be against it? I think Adler would be okay with it. Women have diverse and complex lives and are expected to take on multiple roles and functions: individual, friend, mother, and wife. So women are diverse and they can handle these various roles. So equal relationships and mutual respect between the sexes is promoted, and help clients become self-aware, self-accepting, self-integration, self-affirmation, self-nurturing, and independent. That's some of the key concepts of feminist theory. Techniques that are used. Gender role analysis and intervention. Gender role analysis and intervention is used to help clients understand the impact of gender role expectations in their lives. What is expected of a woman? Are you expected to be the mother and that's all? Provides clients with insight into ways social issues affect their problems. How social issues affect their problems. Many women want to go and work out in the world of work, and they want to do some of the same things that men are doing when it comes to taking care of family, running corporations, and things of that nature. But based on the past and based upon the beliefs that's been challenged. Self-disclosure is another technique to help equalize the therapeutic relationship and provide modeling for the client. Values, beliefs about society, and therapeutic interventions are discussed. It allows the client to make an informed choice. We're talking about values, beliefs about society, and their therapeutic intervention is discussed. But we have to be very careful with self-disclosure when we are talking with individuals. If you are a feminist and you believe in the feminist theory, then you will more than likely disclose that information to your consumer. Will you start talking about things that you dislike this particular type of person or that particular type of person? No, you're not going to go in there and self-disclose some things like that. But we're just looking at values, beliefs about society, and the therapeutic intervention. Assertiveness training is used. Women become aware of their interpersonal rights. Transcend stereotypical sex roles. Changes negative beliefs. We could use that with a little CBT. And implement changes in their daily lives. This is some assertive training. This is what happens in that training. Power analysis and power intervention. Emphasis on the power differences between men and women. Clients are helped to recognize the different kinds of power they possess and how they and others exercise power. That is pretty much self-explanatory there. Emphasis on the power differences. The power differences. When we're talking about power analysis and power intervention, there are many, many examples that we can find in the news. If you just do a search on struggles that women are having because they don't have the sociopolitical or economic power to enforce or to advocate changes. There have been lots of progress made since women actually first had rights to vote. There's been a lot of progress that have been made. Now, reframing is another technique. It changes the frame of reference from looking at an individual's behavior. It shifts from an intrapersonal to interpersonal definition of the client's problem. Intrapersonal is within. Inter is without, between the two people. It also moves from blaming the victim to looking at social factors in the environment that contributes to the client's problem. Another technique we've discussed before, is bibliotherapy. Reading assignments that address issues such as coping skills, gender inequality, gender role stereotypes, many ways sexism is promoted, power differential between women and men, society's obsession with thinness, sexual assault. All of these particular issues can be discussed. And this can be used when you're dealing with women. And you can actually integrate this into some of the other theories and techniques. Another technique is relabeling. Changing the label or evaluation applied to the client's behavioral characteristics. Generally, the focus is shifted from a negative to a positive evaluation. So that's what we're doing, relabeling. Social action encourages clients to embrace social activism, develops clients through understanding of feminism by building a link between their experiences and the socio-political context they live in. So encouraging women to be advocates or advocating for themselves, teaching self-advocacy. The limitations of feminism psychotherapy. Therapists do not take a value neutral stance. Therapists do not take a value neutral stance. We've talked about values in places that you leave them. But in this particular therapy, they don't take a value neutral stance. Therapists must be careful not to impose their cultural values on the client. That's where we can have a bit of countertransference going on. So we have to be very, very careful and be cognizant and aware of what we're doing when we're working with individuals, because our cultural beliefs, because of the culture we came from, we all come from different cultures most of the time. So we have to be very, very careful. Therapists may challenge societal values that subordinate certain groups without first gaining a clear understanding of the client's culture. This may alienate clients. Next, the heavy environmental or socio-political focus may detract from exploring a client's intrapsychic experiences, and more empirical support is needed for this approach. Basically saying there's more research that's needed to prove that this type of psychotherapy actually works. Now we'll discuss solution-focused brief therapy. Please pause this video, open up another browser or window, and watch this particular video, Solution-Focused Couples Therapy. Now that you have watched the video, what happened? Think about what happened in the couples therapy. Did they resolve their issue? Is this something that you'd like to do? This type of work? Is that something you'd like to do? We're looking at solution-focused behavior therapy. There are key concepts. This therapy is grounded on a positive orientation. People are healthy and competent. People really want to change. There's positive orientation where people are healthy, competent, and possess the ability to construct solutions. This is the belief. Regardless of what shape they are in when they enter therapy, the role of the therapist here is to help clients recognize the competencies they possess rather than looking for a problem, which is pessimism. Look for a solution, using a bit of optimism. Accept people where they are and help create solutions. Accepting people where they are. What does that remind you of when we think about a particular theory? Person-centered, client-centered, unconditional positive regard, right? The next concept, solution-focused therapy, shares similarities with positive psychology because it concentrates on what is right and working for the individual rather than dwelling on deficits or problems. 3, past is downplayed while present and future are highlighted. Past is downplayed while the future and the present are highlighted. Understanding the history of a problem is not necessary in order to find solutions. Change behavior happens in the context of the here and now. Next concept is therapy is concerned with looking for what is working. Clients present one side of themselves in the story. Helping clients examine another side of the story, the client, not the counselor, has the power to affect change. Focus on what has helped the client make it thus far and the strength it takes to ask the question. Nothing is all negative. Clients tend to think in dichotomies, viewing a situation as all negative or all positive. There are exceptions to all problems. Look for the exceptions here. Clients often believe that what has happened in the past will shape their future. So, solution focused based therapy will help them in changing those thoughts. Another key concept is therapists assist clients in finding exceptions to their problems. I talked about that prior. You're looking at finding exceptions to the problem. Clients use stories to justify beliefs that life can't be changed or that life is moving them away from their goals. We help clients find exceptions to the stories or the problems. Now, when a goal is defined, the expectation of a different, more satisfactory future starts to develop and behavior changes in the past become possible. Next, there is a shift from problem-oriented to solution-focused. What one expects to happen colors or determines what is happening and what is going to happen. What one expects to happen colors or determines what is happening and what is going to happen. As long as one expects the same old thing to happen over and over again, it is likely that expectation will be met. Change will occur as the conditions change in some way, but the process itself generates expectation maintaining behaviors. The process itself generates expectation maintaining behaviors. Now, since expectations help to determine the nature of subsequent events, it seems clear that the behavior will change when the expectations change. Does that make sense? When the expectations change, behavior will change. Emphasis is on constructing solutions rather than problem solving. So, basic assumptions of solution-focused brief therapy. The problem itself may not be relevant to finding effective solutions. The problem itself. We're not concerned about the problem. People can create their own solutions. Do you think that's true for all individuals? Even individuals that are intellectually disabled or have severe mental disorders? Small changes lead to large changes. Small changes lead to large changes. Now, I would like to expound a little bit more on these particular points. When we're looking at the first bullet, an example here, knowing that a client was abused as a child may explain the client's behavior or symptoms, but says very little about how I can help change the behavior. This is the belief here. We know that was, but how do we extinguish this bad behavior or whatever behavior it is that we're trying to change? When we look at the second bullet, this is based on the belief that people are competent and have the ability to construct solutions into their problems. But is that true? Is it really true? And for number 3, small changes lead to large changes. Changing ourselves tend to affect our relationships with others. An example, a teenager came to a therapy session because she could not get along with her older sister. After identifying an exception to the problem, the counselor asked the client to do more of what worked for her. She did, and later reported that her sister responded to her differently. So, after identifying an exception to the problem, she asked her to implement this, and it worked. Small changes. Additional basic assumptions of SFBT, solution focused brief therapy. A client is the expert on his or her own life. Reality based on our own personal preconceptions, biases, and past history, which all influence our view of what our current reality is. Reality is in the eye of the beholder. No two realities are the same. Consequently, the client and the therapist may see the problem in different ways. So here the client is expected to be the expert of his or her own life. The best therapy involves a collaborative partnership. Is that true? That's one of the basic assumptions here. So what type of therapeutic relationship should the consumer and the client have? The counselor and the client have? A collaborative one, right? Okay. Each person is unique, and so their symptoms, problems, and solutions, even if a client has been diagnosed with a problem that is similar to another person's, those two people experience the difficulty differently and therefore attach different meanings. Reality is a social construct. Does that make sense? Let me go on a little deeper. Reality is thus created by the individual's interpretation and understanding of communication from other sources and people. The therapist, not knowing, affords the client an opportunity to construct a solution. So with all of that being said, their reality is different from how the therapist might see it. But if the client is the expert on their own lives, then we have a collaborative relationship with them, then you can help them move forward in obtaining a solution to their problem. Questions in solution-focused brief therapy. Skillful questions allow people to utilize their resources. Asking how questions that imply change can be helpful. Effective questions focus attention on solutions. Sample questions can be, tell me about a time when you did not have this problem. What do you do differently? Or what did you do differently? How can you use this information differently if the situation arises again? Tell me about times when you are doing some of this, even if it's just a little. How would that be helpful for you? What would you be doing instead of blank, blank, blank? Additional questions in solution-focused brief therapy. Questions can get clients to notice when things were better. Have there ever been times when the problem was not there or less severe is a good question. How did that happen? Useful questions assist people in paying attention to what they are doing and can help open up possibilities for them to do something different. Okay? Now, techniques that are used in solution-focused brief therapy. Pre-therapy change. What have you done since you made the appointment that has made a difference in your problems? Exception questions. We discussed those prior. Direct questions to the client, which direct clients to times in their lives when the problem did not exist. The miracle question. If a miracle happened and the problem that you have was solved while you were asleep, what would be different in your life? That's an exceptional question. That's the question that I've used many times in therapy sessions, and I've blended it and integrated it with other therapeutic techniques from other therapies or theories, and it works wonders. Scaling questions. On a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is the worst you have been and 10 represents the problem being solved, where are you in respect to the particular problem? Great technique. Now we're going to move on to narrative therapy. Narrative therapy. Pause this video, and I would like for you to watch this video where a therapist talks about narrative therapy. Counselor Jill Oliver, who's actually in London. And don't forget to copy this to the URL, another browser, or open another window. Now that you have seen the video, what do you think about it? What do you think about narrative therapy? Is it different from what you thought narrative therapy actually was? Key concepts of narrative therapy. Listen to clients with an open mind. Encourage clients to share their stories. Listen to a problem-saturated story of the client without getting stuck. Therapists demonstrate respectful curiosity and persistence. The person is not the problem, but the problem is the problem. The person is not the problem, but the problem is the problem. Within this particular therapy, you establish the relationship and listen respectfully. Search for times when the client was resourceful as you're listening to the story. Use questions as a way to engage clients and facilitate the exploration. Here you avoid diagnosing and labeling the client, and you help the client separate themselves from the problem and create space for an alternative story. You help them separate themselves from the problem. The therapeutic process and narrative therapy. The relationship between the counselor and the client is a collaborative relationship, with the client in the counselor helping them identify or naming the problem. They separate the person from his or her problem. They investigate how the problem has been disrupting or dominating the person. You're doing the research. And you search for exceptions to the problem, which can turn into alternative solutions. You ask clients to speculate about what kind of future they could expect from the competent person that is emerging. And you create an audience to support the new story. The role of questions in narrative therapy. What is the role of questions? Questions are used as a way to generate experience rather than to gather information. You're looking for those exceptions, those times when they were successful in some other areas or doing things. Questions are always asked from a position of respect, curiosity, and openness. Therapists ask questions from a not knowing stance. From a not knowing, you make the assumption here that you don't know, versus sometimes when you're asking a question as if you already know the answer. By asking questions, therapists assist clients in exploring dimensions of their life situations, and questions can lead to taking apart problem-saturated stories. Once you've determined what the problem is, and you remember I told you that with this particular therapy, you look at the problem as the problem, not the individual. What happens here, then you move to a technique that is called externalization. Externalization is the process of separating the person from identifying with the problem. separating the person from identifying with that particular problem. Living life means relating to problems, not being fused with them. Externalizing conversations help people in freeing themselves from being identified with the problem. Externalizing conversations can lead clients to recognizing times when they have dealt successfully with the problem. So you're externalizing the problem and you're having them look at the problem as the problem, not them. Deconstruction and creating alternative stories. Problem-saturated stories are deconstructed, taken apart, before new stories are created. Deconstruct those old problems, take them apart before new stories are created. The assumption is that people can continually and actively reauthor their lives. They can continuously and actively reauthor their lives. Unique possibility questions enable clients to focus on their future. And an appreciative audience helps make new stories to take root. When we say an audience, that doesn't mean they're in front of people and you're having a conversation about this. That's definitely not what we're talking about. Now we're at the end. Okay? That's it. Thank you, class.